Hey guys, so I'm making a video about well pumps because I haven't been able to find one single video that actually addressed what my problem was, and I figured it out. So I'm gonna make a video so that all my trial and error and hanging out in this little spider nest isn't for naught in the rain. So there is short cycling of, sorry about my camera skills are awful. There's short cycling of your jet pump in the typical fashion where there's a tank failure. So the pump is cycling, every 60 seconds or every 30 seconds or something like that. That wasn't my issue. My issue is the pump was cycling really fast, like on off, on off, on off, on off, click, 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 and it would blow the breaker in the house, actually, if I didn't run out here and shut the switch off and then play around with the pressure switch. So it took me a little while to figure this out. I mean, maybe a lot of people know this, but I can't find a single video that addresses the problem of the pump just jacking really quickly. I know this setup is not ideal and it's not a typical well, like this is a lake house. So it's actually drawing water from the lake and you use the jet pump, just the well pump, really not in a normal way. Anyway, I proved that it wasn't the tank. I bled the tank down, I bled the water system down and then monitored the pressure in the tank, and it held at 28 psi, 2 psi less than the 30 psi kick out. So then what I did was I started adjusting the main switch. I think most people's pressure switches are the same. There's the bigger nut, and that adjusts your kick on and kick off, up or down at the same time. So I adjusted that down until the pump kicked on at exactly 30 psi. So I had that established, but it was still doing the jacking on and off, on and off. And then I started playing with the other switch. I was lost for a while, but then I realized when I put the socket on to the high pressure, the secondary nut that just adjusts the high pressure, and when I pushed it down, it made the connections lock and grab, and this pump stopped jacking. So I was like, oh, well, it seems like if I tighten just the cutoff switch, it maybe will stop the jacking of the pump. So if you're having the problem where your pump is jacking, it's short cycling very quickly, the procedure I followed is I bled the tank down, I bled the system down, and then I checked the tank to make sure that the tank wasn't also bleeding down. I also, I took my little gauge off and I popped the air release to make sure there was no water coming. So the tank showed no signs of the bladder leaking. It was holding the 28 psi that it should have, which is 2 psi less than the kick on. That all checked out. Then I just stumbled upon the issue playing around with these switches all day, that I just needed to add some tension to the cut off switch. Where it was deceiving was when the pump is actually running, the gauge is showing me 60 psi. It's bouncing at 60. So it was making me think that the cutoff switch was already too high. But when the pump finally kicks out at 60 psi operating pressure, it actually ended up sitting at a perfect 50 where it's supposed to be. This switch was supposed to be set at a 30-50 from factory. It's been doing this short cycling thing almost since the day I got it, and it's been getting a little worse. It's a good pump. It's a Red Lion pump. It's not a cheap one. So I hope this helps somebody. If you have this really fast cycling problem, not your typical fast cycle where it's every 30 seconds, but just the very quick short cycling, you need to actually not touch do the procedure that I went with. Drain the system, confirm the tank is not leaking, and if that's the case, then back off the main switch, back it off a bunch, and then drain the pressure out of your system until you get exactly 30 psi on your gauge, or just repressurize it and then drain it back down so you have exactly 30 psi reading on your gauge, and then start to tighten up the main nut until it just kicks on. That means if you have it sitting at 30 waiting for the pump to kick on and you just start adjusting the main nut, which does the cut on and off, you will be setting your cut on at 30. Then watch the pump operation and let it get so that while it's actually pumping, let it get so it's pumping maybe 68 psi, and then start to play around with the cut off switch, and either, well, if it's still pumping at 68, you'll need to start backing it off a quarter turn at a time until it stops. Then turn on the taps or whatever you got. I had a garden hose out here. Bleed the pressure back down until your kick on at 30 psi happens. And then if you've tightened this little nut properly, it should kick on very nicely. Just one, maybe two clicks, click, click, and it'll run. If not, tighten this nut, give it 2 quarter turns tight. Cycle the pump again, let it run. Maybe this time it'll get to 69 psi before it shuts off on its own. And then you'll notice that the gauge might be reading 50. Then again, bleed it all down. This is like a 10-minute process, right? Because with the tank intact, it takes about 5 or 6 minutes of just water usage before it wants to start up again. And then if you've given it a little more tension, this time it might cycle on properly for you. So anyways, I hope that helps somebody a lot, because I've been fighting with that issue. I went and bought new pressure switches. I've done all kinds of stuff. This is the 3rd or 4th pump I've went through. Some of the other pumps actually failed because of this jacking thing. So anyway, hope it helps. I might make a little bit better of a video in the future, but for now, all my trial and error might be able to help somebody else. Cheers.